Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Paulina. I am with Keller Williams North Atlanta. And today I have the wonderful Cheryl Nolan joining us for this call. Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How was your Mother's Day?
Well, it was nice. We went downtown to Alpharetta and had a glass of wine, and it was beautiful weather yesterday. And all three of my sons called me from all the places that they are. So it was really nice. Thank you for asking. How about yours?
It was pretty nice. We just had some really good takeout breakfast. And we went for a walk around 6. The weather was truly beautiful. So yeah, we kind of just hang out, relaxed. And here we are now. I'm very excited about this call. Today we're going to be, discussing some of the questions that you usually get from first-time home buyers. I know that, when people start thinking about buying that first house, so many things go through your mind and you have so many questions. So I would like to start by asking you, what are some of those, questions you get from families that, they're starting the process?
Well, probably the first one that they're concerned about is what credit score do I need? And it depends on what type of loan they're going to have. And usually what I'll do is once I take the loan application and pull their credit and see what their credit is, then I can help determine the best loan for them. For instance, an FHA loan, it's a very small amount of money down and it's a little bit more forgiving of the credit score than say a conventional loan. But if the score is really good, then I might say, let's see if we can qualify them for a 3% down on a conventional loan. So it really just depends. And I would say things are a little different right now, but typically we see conventional can go down to a 620 credit score. And also with the government loans, which would be FHA, VA, and USDA. Right now we're at a 640, but I would imagine we're going to go back down to about a 620 or even a 600 soon.
Okay. All right. What are some things that I can do as a first-time home buyer to improve my credit score?
Oh, so yes, definitely to improve the credit score, I'm going to give them guidance depending on what I see. But typically, credit cards need to be about 30% of the available credit limit. So let's just say you have a $1,000 limit on your credit card. You want to have no more than $300 charged on that credit card. And the other thing is I advise my clients always to set their credit cards up to pay the balance in full if they can when it's due. But don't go out and charge something today and then pay it off tomorrow because it's almost like it never happened. So the creditors are looking for responsible use of credit. And by using it and then paying it off when it becomes due, that way you're paying little to no interest. If you pay it in full, you're paying no interest. But also it's showing them that you know how to use credit.
I love that. And something that I really want to share with everybody watching this video is that I absolutely love Cheryl because she is pretty much always available. We're both workaholics, kind of, always ready to help our clients and help families. I know that, sometimes when you're looking for a house, you can't really plan when you start looking or when you're seeing something online and you have a question. So I absolutely love Cheryl for that. She has helped me so much. And, I think when you're a first-time home buyer, you have a lot of questions. And the fact that you've always been available to help my clients is something that I really, really, truly appreciate. Tell me about, I've had a couple of clients that they're very young and they just started working in their credit score. Is there something that you recommend? And tell them, I want you to share about, those steps that you tell people, or even people from, out of the United States that come here and they're, starting to build their credit. What are some tips and tricks that you would
Sure.
share?
So one of the things that people can do if they don't have a credit established is they can actually go to their bank and they can get what's called a secured credit card. So for instance, maybe they put down $300 and they say, I want you to take that $300, it's basically set aside, and then they issue a credit card on that $300. So the limit would be what you have set aside. And then you use that credit card, again, keeping it to very small amount, less than 30% of the available credit limit. But that is one way that they can build credit. And of course, another way is they can apply for credit cards. However, I wouldn't go and apply for 10 credit cards because that they're going to pull your credit that many times. But another thing that brings me a point that I'd like to make is that when people are car shopping, do not give your social security number to the finance department of the, for the car dealership, because what they'll do is they'll run your credit for as many number of creditors as they have. If they have 10, that's 10 credit pulls.
Oh, wow.
So it's dangerous. So what I always say is if you have a credit union, get an idea of what the interest rate would be. And if you decide to buy a car with that particular dealership, tell them you may only pull my credit with one creditor, or just tell them, hey, I'm using my credit union. So that can really hurt your score if you have, if you're shopping for a car and you go to several different dealerships and give them your social security number. They'll pull your credit that many times, and it hurts your credit score quite a bit.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. What are some other, mistakes that you see that people kind of do often before buying a house?
One of the things is they try to fix their credit themselves. They think, oh, I need to pay off this collection. They, sometimes what they're doing is they're actually hurting their credit score. So it's very important that you work with a professional like myself, because some lenders, I'll be quite honest, they won't help you fix that credit. They just want the perfect slam dunk and, let's move on. But I really enjoy helping people teach them life skills about their credit, and that's really important going forward. As far as paying off the collections, then that's something that we'll talk about during that. And medical collections are, even though they do hurt your credit score, it's nothing that they have to pay off right away. But sometimes old collections, if you pay them off, it brings them new again, and so it actually hurts your score. I have a simulator that we can run if needed to see if paying those debts off will help your credit score or hurt your credit score. Oh. So it's very, very important not to try to fix it yourself. Let a professional guide you.
Perfect. And let me ask you something. For example, let's say I have 515 credit score, and I know that I have this 3 credit cards that I need to pay by, but for some reason I haven't. If I pay them, am I going to get, a great credit score right away, or how long is that going to take?
So that's actually something that we can look at. I always encourage you to pay at least the minimum on your credit scores. You don't ever want to be, or on your credit cards, you don't want to be late on your credit cards, because that's going to hurt your credit. Always set up all your accounts so that at least it pays the minimum amount each and every time. Student loans and mortgage rates hurt you the most. So it's very important, if you do have a student loan or a mortgage, you pay those on time every time. Really, really important. But the other thing is, part of that simulator that I mentioned is we can actually click a button that says 1 month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, and it will show us whether or not making that payment will help your credit score.
Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely. I have another question. I'm sorry. I'm really taking advantage of the fact that you hear this phone call. So let's say, okay, Cheryl, I'm ready. I want to buy a house. What do I do now? Do I go to your office? What's next?
Yeah. So the very first thing is pick up the phone and give me a call, and then we're going to talk for a little bit, and I would like to run some numbers and see if it makes sense, especially if you're if sometimes people don't understand the whole process, and sometimes maybe they don't make much income, and maybe I need to talk about, well, I think when you apply, we're going to need to add your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, perhaps even a parent, which would be called a non-occupant co-borrower. Sometimes we might need that extra income to qualify, even though they wouldn't essentially be paying for it, but maybe you don't have enough income to qualify on your own. So that is something to pick up the phone, give me a call, let's talk about that, and then let's get the application process started. Once you apply, it's basically about a 10 to 15 minute application, then pull credit, analyze where to be, and then I'm going to call you back and we'll discuss what some options and possibilities might be.
Okay. And are there any specific documents that I might want to have ready for you? Can I scan this? Is this pretty much done everything electronic? I mean, it's 2020. I'm hoping yes.
Yes, you can actually apply from the convenience of your phone. We have a phone app,
Okay.
and then you can also apply from the convenience of your computer as well. But the other thing too is the documents, we can all do all of that digitally, so no problem there. The phone app, you can actually take a picture of some of the documents and upload them. The only thing is once we do get into the loan process, there's just a couple of documents that you need to print out and sign with ink, but everything else is done electronically. So it's very, very simple, very tech savvy. So there was something else you asked me about that I was going to mention. Oh, I know what it was. So if you're a self-employed borrower, if you have your own business, we're going to need to see your tax returns. But other than that, if you're not, if you're just a like straight W-2 employee, basically the documents we're going to ask you for are your driver's license, the front side only. We're going to ask you for the most recent pay stubs for 30 days. We'll ask for 2 months of bank statements. And we're going to ask you for your most recent W-2. Sometimes we might need to see the previous year as well. But that's just simple to start with. We may need to look at your, if you have a retirement savings, we might need to look at that just as reserves, not that we need to use it, but just if the file seems to want some reserves, then we can look at that as well.
Awesome. Well, I think all of this is so valuable, especially if you're, right now thinking about buying a house. What about interest rates? Is that something, does your interest rate is related to your credit score? How does that work?
Sure. So the interest rate definitely is related to your credit score. The better your credit score is, the better the rate will be. But it also takes other things into account. And that might be something like the debt to income ratio, which is how much your new housing debt is combined with the other debts that you have. And then we compare that to your income. So that's another factor. It might also be how much money you're putting down. If you put 20% down versus say 3% down, that's going to affect your credit score as well. So there are a lot of factors that go into it. When people call me up and say, what are the rates today? It's like, I don't know, because there's about 15 pieces of information I have to gather, and I put it in a simulator, and then it tells me what that rate is going to be.
Gotcha. Well, is there anything that you might want to add up that you feel like it's valuable for someone that's thinking about buying a house right now?
Yes, there are great first-time home buyer programs, but it also depends on where you're purchasing. If you're purchasing in a rural area, you might be able to get 100% financing. If you're going with a VA loan, you could also get 100% financing. The other loans would be 3% down or 3.5% down, depending on which program. But also, sometimes if you make too much money, you're not eligible for that 3% program. But we can do as little as 5% down. I think that there's misinformation out there, and sometimes first-time home buyers think they need to have 20% down, and that's definitely not the case.
Right. I feel so bad whenever someone tells me I've been wanting to buy a house, but I don't have 20% down of that. And I'm like, no, there's other options that we can talk about. So that's great. That's awesome. I didn't even know that we had 100% in some of the VA loans and some other programs. That's great.
Yeah. So I actually I just closed on a USDA loan. It's up in Murrayville, Georgia, and I'm working on another one right now that's in Somerville, Georgia. So it's going to be your more rural areas. It's definitely not in the metropolitan area, but there's other programs that we can use that would possibly get them as little as 3% down.
That's wonderful. Well, Cheryl, if there's anything else, I really appreciate you being in the call. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I always learn so much about, our conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Well, stay tuned because we need to do the next series, because there's things that you shouldn't do when you get into the loan process. But that can be another episode we discuss.
Absolutely. And that I'm so glad you mentioned that. We will be doing 2 more phone calls. So if you have any questions, if you're going through this process and you would like to either talk to Cheryl or myself, please feel free to reach out. As always, I'm going to be leaving our information at the end of this video. Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much. I enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.